Trump hosts Milei amid Argentina bailout, U.S. shutdown. President Donald Trump hosted Argentine President Javier Milei today at the White House, shortly after finalizing a $20 billion currency swap package to stabilize Argentina's volatile peso and financial markets. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent emphasized that Washington's support depends on Milei's commitment to free market reforms and fiscal discipline. During their meeting, Trump told reporters that continued U.S. aid hinges on the outcome of Argentina's upcoming legislative elections. "If his party doesn't win, we're not going to waste our time," he declared, triggering immediate market reactions in Buenos Aires. The timing of the bailout drew domestic criticism in the U.S., especially from Democrats and agricultural groups. Some analysts point to concerns that Argentina has supplanted the U.S. as a major soybean supplier to China, potentially undercutting American farmers. Others warn that using taxpayer funds for politically tied foreign aid could provoke backlash purely on principle. While the administration defends the package as strategic and conditional, the line between economic intervention and political influence has become a central point of contention amid a broader U.S. shutdown and budget standoff.
Farmers lost 42% of their market in Trump's first tariff trade war. Voting for him again was pure insanity.
It was a kleptocratic scheme. Trump bailed out his friends who were losing everything in their investments in Argentina.
He is selling our government and pocketing the USA money, period. The farmers voted for Trump.
Corruption at its finest. Go USA. Remember, farmers, you voted for him to make Argentina great again.
Nothing this dictator does is any good for 98% of US citizens.
Hey, Doomba, he told you guys over and over he was a snake. Sadly, most news outlets are not reporting any of this in fear of reprisals from the Trump admin. Thank you so much for the outstanding reporting. Thank you.
Federal agents intensify operations in Chicago, draw criticism. Federal agents, including ICE operatives, have intensified enforcement actions in Chicago and surrounding suburbs under Operation Midway Blitz, prompting clashes with protesters and criticism from local and civil liberties groups. Over 550 arrests have reportedly been made in the broader Chicago region, targeting undocumented individuals with criminal records and incidental detentions alike. In protest zones, agents have deployed tear gas, pepper balls, and other crowd control munitions, raising accusations of excessive force. In response, a federal judge in Illinois issued a temporary restraining order restricting the use of riot control weapons against journalists and peaceful protesters, and requiring federal personnel to display identifying markers. Though some local leaders have voiced opposition, the article's portrayal of Governor Pritzker formally denouncing the escalation as jurisdictional overreach lacks clear confirmation from public records. The Department of Homeland Security defends the operations, contending they focus on criminal illegal aliens, and asserting that agents use minimal necessary force. The tensions exemplify a broader clash between federal immigration enforcement and local authorities over authority, civil liberties, and accountability in enforcement policy.
Once the nightmare is out of the Oval Office, all those involved with ICE should all be held accountable. Let's be real, most of these agents aren't trained. They signed on for a big bonus.
Why is Pritzker not charged with crimes?
All those weirdos who wanted to be cops but couldn't pass the psych test are now ICE agents.
No badges, no warrants. How can we know if they are officials or kidnappers?
California passed a bill the ICE can't wear masks. All states should do this. ICE agents are the lowest of low, cowards.
ICE struggling to find the violent criminals? Look in the mirror. ICE may think they are untouchable, but like Hussein's Republican Guard, Hitler's Waffen-SS, and Mussolini's MVSN, they will suffer the consequences of their actions, and their face masks will not help them.
Pentagon evicts reporters over new information rules. Major U.S. news organizations, including CNN, Fox News, the Associated Press, the New York Times, and the Washington Post, have overwhelmingly refused to endorse a new Pentagon press policy that demands journalists pledge not to solicit or publish information unless explicitly approved. Failure to comply by the Tuesday deadline could revoke reporters' credentials and bar them from Pentagon access. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth defended the guidelines as common sense measures to protect national security, arguing that press access is a privilege, not an inherent right. According to the Pentagon, signing the pledge does not require prior submission of stories but expects journalists to acknowledge the policy's constraints, even on unclassified material. Critics, including the Pentagon Press Association and legal scholars, say the rules represent an unprecedented curtailment of First Amendment protections and risk chilling routine newsgathering. Only One America News has publicly agreed to the terms. Many outlets vow to continue covering the military from outside the Pentagon and are preparing to challenge the policy legally should access be denied.
Good, a free press is a cornerstone of democracy.
Keep the pressure on this regime and bring it down. We will not be the generation that loses out democracy.
The freedom of the press is one thing. The freedom to roam the halls of a military installation is another thing entirely. I don't think they should be in the Pentagon at all. Top secret things happen in there, and the press is not known anymore as trustworthy. Back in the 70s and 80s, you knew that what they said was the fact and not just an opinion. Now, I don't trust any of them, especially in the Pentagon. This includes Fox News.
Dang, even Fox News refused to sign. No. Good job everyone. Resist.
The Pentagon is under no obligation to share sensitive military information to the world. I stand by the Pentagon.
Trump administration moves to reverse erroneous CDC layoffs amid shutdown. Federal officials are now scrambling to reverse mistaken terminations of CDC staff after coding errors triggered mass layoff notices during the ongoing government shutdown. Reports say over 1,300 CDC employees received termination letters, and more than 700 were later rescinded amid union pressure and public scrutiny. Across the government, more than 4,100 federal employees have been notified of termination under a reduction in force (RIF) plan tied to the shutdown, diverging sharply from traditional furlough practices. Several agencies, including Education and Health and Human Services, are deeply affected. While some leaders describe the moves as targeting critical public health and outreach functions, legal and union advocates argue mass layoffs during a funding lapse may violate laws governing appropriations. Some notices already reversed suggest internal acknowledgement of procedural overreach, though the administration asserts it will use minimal force against non-compliant employees. The unfolding dispute underscores tensions between emergency staffing choices and legal protections for federal workers during a shutdown.
Here's a thought: if government is shut down, why am I, and everyone else watching this, paying them? No work, no pay. They are supposed to be working for us. Just a thought.
On off, on off, on off.
If they were critical, why weren't they considered essential?
Imagine how strong our country would be if Congress spent their days working for the people WHO elected them instead of the people WHO by them.
The shutdown is closing airports and increasing prices.
It's crazy how the politicians don't do their jobs for 13 days and don't get fired.
I swear to all holy, This is now like living with a frickin' bipolar narcissist.
Congress should have to work with no pay as well.
Hamas releases 20 hostages to Israel under ceasefire deal. Hamas released 20 living Israeli hostages today under a U.S. brokered ceasefire. Red Cross trucks facilitated the handover, and the hostages were transported to medical facilities in Israel for urgent evaluation. In return, Israel released nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, including many held without charge and convicted militants. The deal is cast as phase one of a broader peace initiative, but major obstacles remain. So far, Hamas has transferred only 8 bodies of deceased hostages, one of which the Israeli military later declared not to match its records, while at least 20 others await return. Israel has responded by cutting aid shipments to Gaza in protest. President Trump has publicly demanded that Hamas disarm, warning of forced action if they refuse. However, Hamas leadership insists disarmament is unacceptable. The political and security fate of Gaza, as well as the integrity of the peace accord, hangs on the next steps and on both sides' adherence to the agreement.
It's not that Evitar's life is worth more than the other hostages, but when I first saw him in that tunnel, I wished so much that he could survive and return safely to his family.
Notice how the Democrats aren't protesting Hamas and only Israel. They don't care about Palestinians, they just hate Israel.
Wow, when I saw the video of him digging his own grave a few months ago, I didn't think he would make it. It's such a happy surprise to know that he endured and survived all that horror.
Where are the protesters now?
Where are all the liberals now that Hamas are killing Palestinians?
I don't know how this man endured. So glad he is free.
Pentagon accelerates critical mineral stockpiling after China export controls. The U.S. Department of Defense is accelerating its purchase of critical minerals, potentially totaling up to $1 billion, following China's imposition of tighter export controls earlier this month. These new restrictions, framed by Beijing as national security measures, target rare earths and related technologies, and raise concerns about supply chain bottlenecks for defense and high-tech industries. China currently dominates a large share of global processing capacity for rare earth elements, which amplifies U.S. urgency to diversify sources. In response, the Defense Logistics Agency has expanded its procurement programs to include strategic reserves accessible under presidential or defense-level authorization. Meanwhile, in India, officials are planning a national critical mineral stockpile that would initially focus on rare earths, aiming to hold a 2-month reserve to buffer against external supply shocks. While this initiative remains in its planning stages, it reflects a broader push to strengthen mineral security. Although tensions with China have grown over resource access, there is no confirmed diplomatic breakthrough or mutual agreement between U.S. and Chinese leadership on this issue. The unfolding strategic scramble over minerals underscores just how central control over raw materials has become in great power competition.
Trump regime discovered they can't produce offensive product that harm human. Thank you, China.
Poke the dragon by sending weapons to countries around China. Talk about preparing for war with China and expect China to continue supplying minerals needed to produce those weapons?
No rare earths, no weapons for Adolf Netanyahu or the Green Goblin.
F the warmongers.
No weapons for the villainy of the world. Say why they want to attack Venezuela. They be skulking around for a war someplace to steal wealth.
Stockpile all they want, still need the ability and technology to refine them, and China will not be sharing the technology.
cut off all rare earth and oil gas supplies to USA and NATO permanently.
Poor Orange Mac, his planes got backfired again.
Indian Prime Minister Modi skips Gaza ceasefire summit in Egypt. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi did not attend the Gaza Peace Summit in Sharm el-Sheikh on October 13, 2025, where U.S. President Donald Trump and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi presided over a high-profile gathering. Instead, India was represented by Minister of State for External Affairs Kirti Vardhan Singh, who joined delegates from about 30 nations. Modi had reportedly been invited but declined due to scheduling constraints and short notice. Insiders say logistical and diplomatic considerations played a role. While Modi's absence sparked speculation, some pointing to regional political sensitivities, the government emphasized continuity in India's diplomatic posture rather than symbolic presence. Notably, neither Israel nor Hamas leaders attended in person, underscoring the summit's role as a convening platform rather than a direct negotiating table. India reaffirmed support for a negotiated two-state solution and endorsed the international ceasefire framework, while emphasizing that dialogue and diplomacy must be central to any long-term peace plan.
Pakistan PM. Final bootlicker god.
It's simple, Modi is smart and Trump is not, while Shahbaz is just a clown.
OMG, the Chinese bots in the comments are literally crying, "You go Palki, great."
More respect to PM Modi for not attending Trump's circus. Good thing that Modi did not attend the circus conducted by Trump.
Trump announces U.S. military attack kills 6 alleged drug traffickers. U.S. President Donald Trump announced on October 14 that a U.S. military strike off the Venezuelan coast killed 6 individuals aboard a vessel he claimed was tied to narcotics trafficking networks. According to Trump, the boat was struck in international waters under orders from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. This attack marks the 5th in a recent string of U.S. operations in the Southern Caribbean, bringing the total death toll to approximately 27. While Trump asserts intelligence linked the vessel to illicit narco-terrorism, the administration has not publicly disclosed the names or cargo evidence. Human Rights Watch and other observers have condemned the strike as potentially amounting to extrajudicial killing under international law, a characterization the U.S. government disputes. Venezuelan officials denounced the attack as illegal aggression, and Colombian President Gustavo Petro has called for disclosure of the victims' identities, citing possible Colombian nationals among them. The lack of transparency, combined with the unprecedented use of lethal force against suspected traffickers without confirmation, has ignited a heated debate over the legality, oversight, and geopolitical implications of the United States' expanded maritime counter-drug campaign.
UN has flag, mast left.
Brazil should treat traffickers who bring drugs into Brazil like this.
People not. Drug dealers who destroy families.
So far, no fishermen's families have complained.
Thank you, Trump. When you've finished cleaning up Venezuela, take a little trip to Brazil. Please.
Go all out, Trump. The next target is Maduro.
Afghan, Pakistani forces clash on border, major crossing closed. In the weekend of October 11 to 12, intense clashes erupted along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, prompting closure of major crossings including Torkham. Pakistani authorities shut the routes following heavy exchanges of fire and accusations from both sides regarding incursions. The Afghan Taliban claimed that they killed 58 Pakistani soldiers in retaliation for alleged Pakistani airstrikes on Kabul, while Pakistan acknowledged 23 of its forces were killed and asserted it eliminated over 200 Taliban combatants. Each side denies the other's accusations of provoking hostilities. Trade and transit were severely disrupted, stranding hundreds as border crossings remained shut for days while tensions flared in districts such as Kurram and Chaman. In response to the escalation, a 48-hour ceasefire was brokered beginning October 15, with both nations agreeing to pursue diplomacy. Pakistan repeatedly accused Afghanistan of harboring Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan (TTP) militants active across the border, a claim Kabul denies. Regional voice increased. Nations including Qatar and Saudi Arabia urged restraint and called for negotiations to avert deeper conflict.
If Konoha became a caliphate, the result would be like this. Fortunately, it still remembers the original Nusantara values: beautiful, peaceful, and tolerant.
Hussein and Wanda Hamida, please help. A humanitarian mission is needed between Pakistan and Afghanistan. You two are needed there.
When they clashed with India, Konoha supported Pakistan. Now Konoha doesn't even know who to support, still shouting, Takbir.
The people who claim to be the most peaceful under heaven are now fighting among themselves. If that's the case, they're probably also confused about who to blame.
In the end, they'll definitely blame the Jews and Christians again. The fanatics are confused about which side to pick.
Konoha is confused, it doesn't know which side to choose.
Ouch, he clashed with his neighbor. Why can't you restrain yourself, the most peaceful people on earth?
The people of Konoha would surely say, this is provocation from foreigners.
Even worse, both sides are killing each other while shouting, Allahu Akbar. Even Allah must be confused about which side to defend.
Finance Minister awaits proposal for collapsed school rebuild funds. Finance Minister Purbaya Younis said Tuesday, October 14, she awaits an official proposal to discuss using state budget funds for the rebuilding of the collapsed Al-Khozani Islamic boarding school in Sidoarjo, East Java. Younis, speaking at the Ministry of Public Works and Housing Office, confirmed her office has not yet received the proposal but expressed openness to the plan, noting that rebuilding one school should not require a large budget. She emphasized that the specific amount of state funds cannot be confirmed until the proposal is received and reviewed with relevant parties. The Ministry of Public Works previously announced its intention to rebuild the school using existing budget allocations for education and religious facilities, though the exact amount remains undetermined. The Al-Khozani Islamic boarding school collapsed on September 29, 2025, during afternoon prayers, resulting in 67 deaths and 103 injuries. Investigators cited overloading of vertical supports and possible unauthorized construction as leading causes. East Java Police launched a criminal investigation on October 10, 2025, citing preliminary findings of negligence and the absence of a valid building permit. The tragedy has prompted government plans to establish a task force to inspect Islamic boarding schools nationwide for safety.
If only a portion of the government funds are used to help them, then others will naturally seek the same assistance. There are poorer people who should receive more assistance.
There are two reactions when someone is criticized. A wise person stays silent and reflects, while a foolish one gets offended and angry.
Oranges are meant to be eaten, yet there's a boarding school where the cleric tosses oranges to the students like playing ball, and they scramble to catch them. Are those commendable manners, Mr. Minister of Religious Affairs?
There have been over 150 cases of harassment, rape, and sodomy against underage students, mostly in new boarding schools with similar practices. Is that what you call civilized, Mr. Minister?
I thought he was wise at first, but he turned out to be no different from the others.
We are living in the dark age of Muslims, just as Europe once did. Hopefully, we will soon rise again towards a new golden age of Islam and eradicate feudalism. Amen. Sexual abuse cases in boarding schools, especially in Java, are rampant. Why? Because people are indoctrinated to revere clerics excessively, so students become blindly obedient even when abused. One example of this cult-like reverence is students being told to crawl when shaking hands with their kai.
Damn, who even owns this boarding school? They've already taken advantage of victims' families, and now they're asking for more money from the public?
Gaza ceasefire signed amid implementation challenges. On October 13, 2025, a Gaza Peace Summit convened in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, co-chaired by U.S. President Donald Trump and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, with representatives from approximately 30 nations but no direct attendance by Israel or Hamas. The gathering reaffirmed a ceasefire framework that began on October 10 and formalized a declaration among the U.S., Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey. Under earlier truce arrangements, Hamas released 20 living hostages, and Israel freed nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees. In subsequent handovers, Hamas transferred 8 bodies purported to be deceased hostages, though Israeli forensics later found one did not match U.S. records. In response, Israel threatened to limit aid and keep the Rafah crossing closed. The humanitarian situation remains dire, as armed groups interfering with relief and damaged infrastructure hamper aid deliveries. While proposals for a transitional authority and governance without Hamas have circulated, Hamas has rejected full disarmament plans, complicating the roadmap ahead. The next phase is contingent on compliance, restoration of access, and whether both sides adhere to commitments amid a fragile peace.
What I respect about Israel is that they really value the lives of their people. Even those who have died are asked to be returned.
Even when their citizens have become corpses, their government still honors them. Really admirable.
The bodies of its citizens are still asked to be returned, so high the price of Israeli citizens. In Indonesia, Boro-Boro citizens are valued. The living alone Boro-Boro appreciated, let alone citizens who have become corpses.
Praise be to God, peace is beautiful, war only harms both sides. The IDF has left, but Israel is still to blame.
President Sheinbaum tours flood-hit regions, promises aid after 64 deaths. Torrential rains triggered by Tropical Storm Raymond and the remnants of Hurricane Priscilla have unleashed catastrophic flooding across central and eastern Mexico. As of mid-October 2025, Mexican authorities confirm at least 64 people dead and 65 missing, with Veracruz and Hidalgo among the hardest-hit states. Infrastructure damage is widespread. An estimated 100,000 homes affected, many roads and bridges collapsed or rendered impassable, and entire towns cut off. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum traveled this week through devastated areas in Puebla, Veracruz, and Hidalgo to assess damage and meet with residents. In Huachinango, Puebla, she encountered calls for relocation from high-risk zones. Sheinbaum announced soon to start censuses of affected homes, health facilities, schools, and roads, pledging direct federal aid and activating the DN3E military relief plan. Local criticism has emerged about disaster preparedness and timing of evacuation orders, particularly in Veracruz, where alerts to residents sometimes lagged behind rising river levels. Nevertheless, Rescue operations are underway with deployed emergency forces, and coordination across federal and state governments is underway to restore essential services and begin reconstruction.
I am surprised to see in the comments that people fight to defend parties or television stations and forget to think about the tragedy that our countrymen are living, affected and abandoned by their authorities.
Father, may your mercy and your love be reflected in this place, beloved Heavenly Father.
It is curious that there is no transport to carry food and aid. They only make airplanes for wars.
How sad it is that the felling of trees no longer stops the water and mud.
I am Salvadoran and I feel very bad about what the Mexican people are going through. From El Salvador, I give my full support to go to the most affected areas, not only to those that can be passed by vehicle.
They should put Morena's deputies and senators in a rubber vest and send them as servants of the nation to support the nation.
Three Israeli hostage bodies identified amid fragile ceasefire challenges. Israel on Wednesday identified the remains of three hostages, Uriel Baruch, Tamir Nimrodi and Etan Levi, after four bodies were transferred from Gaza overnight. Forensics determined the fourth body was not an Israeli hostage. Baruch's family had been informed in March 2024, based on new intelligence, that he was killed on October 7 and that his body was being held in Gaza. The development comes amid a fragile ceasefire strained by continued incidents. On April 14, an Israeli strike in Gaza killed 6 people during aid distribution, underscoring ongoing risks to civilians and relief operations. Humanitarian access remains inconsistent despite Israeli pledges to facilitate aid after the April 1 killing of 7 World Central Kitchen workers. Negotiations over a broader political framework are further complicated by Hamas's refusal to disarm, while Israel seeks phased arrangements and the return of all deceased hostages remains. The identification of the three brings partial closure to families but highlights unresolved obligations that continue to test the truce.
Israel won't make a ceasefire over something like this. After all, they want that land, so they will invade whether Hamas is there or not.
I thought they wouldn't last a few months, 6 months, or a year or two at most anyway, and that they'd be right back in the fight again, but they were 100 times faster.
The modern Holocaust.
You started this story. I still think they will impose ceasefire conditions that are clearly unenforceable, and then resume again for non-performance.
I'm sure there are a lot of hostages who died in the Israeli bombing.
What Hamas did was atrocious, but the original cause was Israel's occupation policy, and Israel gets no sympathy because it is promoting this policy rather than stopping it. That's because they wouldn't be able to find them if they were blowing up the whole hostage situation.
Hamas is not protecting its residents. Rather, it is fighting against them. You'd have to be crazy to think the hostages are still alive after seeing this.
Former employee arrested in Saitama nursing home deaths. On October 15, 2025, 2 elderly female residents at a nursing facility in Surugashima, Saitama Prefecture, were found bleeding and unconscious at about 4:55 a.m. Emergency responders transported them to hospital where both were pronounced dead. Investigators treated the incident as a possible double homicide. Shortly after, authorities arrested a 22-year-old former employee, Toya Kimura, approximately 250 meters from the facility. Security camera footage showed a masked individual leaving the premises near the time of the incident, and Kimura reportedly admitted to committing a killing. The 2 victims, believed to be in their 80s and 90s, sustained head injuries and bleeding in bed before detection. Kimura had resigned from his post at the facility in July of the previous year. No clear motive has been disclosed at this stage. Local reports note that the facility is located about 300 meters south of Wakaba Station in a residential neighborhood. The case remains under investigation by Saitama Prefectural Police.
I know how frustrating it is because I'm in the same line of work. I'm not working to make my life stick, so if you're going to be out of touch, you should get out of that job quickly. I'm not defending them, but caregivers are underpaid and overburdened with too much work. I don't mean to defend caregivers, but I think that the more foreign caregivers we have, the more incidents like this will occur. They seem to be more temperamental than Japanese. I want to die without being taken care of in a nursing home. It's hard to live a long life nowadays.
LDP president apologizes, seeks new alliance after Komeito exit. On October 10, 2025, Komeito formally withdrew from its long-standing coalition with the Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, citing dissatisfaction with the LDP's handling of political fund scandals and demand for reform. In response, LDP President Sanae Takaichi apologized to her party's Diet members, urging their continued support for stable governance and the upcoming prime ministerial vote. Following the split, the LDP has actively sought new partners. Negotiations are underway with several opposition and reformist parties, including the Japan Innovation Party, JIP, to rebuild a working majority. Policy talks between the LDP and potential allies are expected to begin shortly, focusing on security, fiscal governance, and energy. Without Komeito's backing, the LDP loses its clear majority in both houses, complicating its path to electing a prime minister. Analysts suggest the extraordinary Diet session to choose the new leader will be held later in October. The coalition's abrupt collapse marks a significant shift in Japanese politics and challenges Takaichi's bid for premiership.
This is fine. It was just abnormal until now. Mr. Takaichi is not to blame.
I would like to ask the LDP members of the LDP to protect President Koichi.
No need to apologize. The people are rejoicing.
I would like to let him sleep for 10 hours at a time. Thank you, Mr. Takaichi, for the people.
That's not true. Rather, it is an achievement.
You have lost weight, I can see that you are tired. It's a policy with your health. Please take a little rest. I am supporting you.
It's not Takaichi's fault.
I don't have any problem with that. Please become Prime Minister soon.
I think both Restoration and National Democratic Party of Japan will throw the ball to their own party until just before the 20th. I hope Mr. Takaichi will take good care of his health.
I don't think Sanae is responsible for this at all. Please make a strong Japan.
A 71-year-old driver arrested after fatal crash near Nagoya Station. On October 15, 2025, a 70-something driver was arrested in Nagoya after his vehicle struck 3 pedestrians at a crosswalk near Nagoya Station during the morning rush. The accident occurred around 7:40 a.m., and police responded under suspicion of negligent driving. The driver was taken into custody shortly after the incident. Local media reports confirmed that one woman died from her injuries. The 2 other victims were transported to hospital with serious injuries, though their identities and specific medical details have not been publicly confirmed. Security camera footage suggests the vehicle may have sped through the intersection, but investigations are ongoing into whether pedal misapplication or other factors played a role. Authorities have impounded the vehicle and are conducting forensic inspections. The case is being handled by Nagoya Police, who are reviewing all available evidence including video, witness testimony, and forensic data to determine the exact cause and liability.
This is terrible, almost indiscriminate suicide bombing.
That's a hell of a lot of speed. I really feel sorry for the woman who died.
Enough is enough, the government should do something about it. How many more accidents caused by the elderly?
According to another news report, this driver seems to have dementia. If that is the case, I think the family is more responsible than the driver himself.
Pakistan. Afghanistan agreed to 48-hour ceasefire after border clashes. Overnight clashes erupted between Pakistani forces and Taliban-affiliated units along their shared border, resulting in casualties on both sides and the closure of multiple crossing points. Islamabad closed key crossings following exchanges of fire and allegations of cross-border incursions. On October 15, both sides agreed to a tentative 48-hour ceasefire starting at 6 p.m. local time, reportedly requested by Afghanistan's Taliban government. The truce aims to allow for dialogue and de-escalation after intense fighting that left dozens dead and wounded. Pakistan's foreign ministry affirmed commitment to a peaceful resolution while ordering both armies to hold fire. The escalations began after Pakistan launched air and artillery strikes in response to alleged Taliban attacks on border posts, including in the Spin Boldak and Kurram regions. Kabul's Taliban leadership countered by accusing Islamabad of violating Afghan airspace and targeting civilian areas. Residents in border communities described widespread displacement, shell damage, and disruptions to trade, particularly at crossings like Chaman and Torkham. Both Islamabad and Kabul have accused the other of harboring militants, especially Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, TTP, and employing disproportionate force. Regional mediators, including Qatar and Saudi Arabia, have urged both parties to honor the ceasefire and resume diplomacy to avert deeper escalation.
Pakistan is doing America's dirty work. A dollar army, serving foreign interests.
Isn't Pakistan the same country which supported and celebrated the Taliban's return, thinking it would help to win Kashmir and terrorize India?
Where is Saudi Arabia in all this?
The Saudi crown prince has turned off his phone.
Al Jazeera seems confused about which side to take. Has the right to defend itself.
As an Indian, I say, never mess with Pakistan, they'll just end up surrendering anyway.
For the first time, Al Jazeera seems genuinely confused about which side to choose. If it were about India, Al Jazeera would have taken a clear stance, but now they seem confused.
Nearly 2,000 Palestinians freed under Gaza ceasefire arrive in Khan Younis. Nearly 2,000 Palestinians held in Israeli custody were released under the current ceasefire and exchange framework and transported into Gaza via the Kerem Shalom crossing, with many taken to the Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Younis for evaluation. Local doctors reported widespread exhaustion and untreated injuries among those freed. Several described harsh conditions in custody, including repeated interrogations, beatings, and deprivation of food, water, clothing, and blankets. Human rights organizations and recent UN findings have documented similar patterns of abuse since late 2023, while Israeli authorities insist prison standards are enforced and violations are investigated. The mass release followed the handover of the last 20 surviving Israeli hostages. However, implementation frictions persist. Israel says only a fraction of deceased hostages' bodies have been returned, and it has tied humanitarian measures to further compliance. Mediators from Qatar, Egypt, the United States, and Turkey continue to press both parties to honor commitments as Gaza's humanitarian emergency deepens and allegations surrounding the treatment of Palestinian detainees intensify.
O God, cleanse Gaza of the criminal agents and traitors who lie in wait for the believers. The people of Palestine, you are the shield of the nation and its safety valve. You have a debt on the neck of every Arab and Muslim with these positions and the great sacrifices you have made.
I have grown to hate Israel, the lying West, and all the traitors who supported it.
Gaza has triumphed with its patience, steadfastness and fortitude. Praise be to God for everything. May God fix their condition, heal their sick, have mercy on their martyrs and free the rest of their prisoners, and forgive us for our silence and weakness.
The Palestinian resistance is the pride of the entire nation.
May God release all prisoners in the prisons of the criminal Zionists.
When we say, Gaza has won and the entity has lost, no one debates us. Poor people, may God heal them in body and soul. Glory be to him who restored Joseph to Jacob and Moses to his mother, peace be upon them.
Your joy is our joy and your sorrow is our sorrow. But we can't help it, forgive us, people of Palestine, your brother from Yemen.